Welcome to my PDC online Geoff Lawton 2013-14 design. Also welcome to my property. I'm Donna Gauci and I live in Australia 120 kilometres from the coast of Sydney over the Blue Mountains with an altitude of 1,000 metres. A glorious place that has a temperate climate, cool winters, sometimes occasional snow, frosts and also warm summers. It has been a huge change for me being here 3.5 years, and I'm learning greatly. For a beginner gardener, the seasons are amazing because they teach you step by step, and then you get to try your hand at what it's taught you the following season, the following year. I'd like to share with you the existing design and what I would change, and from what I've learnt, I'd also like to be able to improve the gardens here, or the non-existent gardens, but the land and the soil. Typically the local farmers who have a lot of cattle, mostly cattle and some sheep, they cleared their properties and they all live, they live on flat areas which they prefer. The property here is very undulating, and I found from observation over 3.5 years that it actually has its own microclimate, which is great, and certain areas have different soils, and different soils are able to accommodate different vegetation. We do have beautiful limestone boulders on the property as we're close to Jenolan Caves, and that I thought would be great for putting plants in over winter in between the limestone, but the limestone actually transfers the water into high alkaline, which is not what vegetables like. They like acidic soil. So that was a good learning experience. However, I found out that truffles like very alkaline soil. There's an opportunity there to grow truffles. Very long-term challenging, but an opportunity as well. So I would like to show you my plan. I have got 4 houses here, and one of the houses we use for holiday rental, one is under renovation, and the other 2 we use ourselves. So currently I've chosen one house that we live in as the main zone, and the other ones could potentially have their own zone 1s as well. Or my dream is to have a community organic food garden that serves a wider community, and that is in the process at the moment. I've chosen 80 acres in which to do my design, and that 80 acres is a true indication of a potential subdivision which I'm speaking with council. So please come with me on my tour. I will say to any new students out there, I found it overwhelming to create a design. I didn't know where to start. I did find once I'd watched all the videos, which took a while, that the information, the knowledge was king, and you started to see from the information and be able to apply it just from observation. I also found and remember Geoff saying that start with your edges. Well, we have so many edges I didn't know where to start, so I chose the roads, and the roads helped because the roads are around the houses, and so they became an edge, and around the roads were the trees, and so from all these opportunities around the edges came the zoning, and it just kept flowing and flowing, and it was great. I found it that information was key, to start with your edges and don't worry about what goes in the middle. So please come with me and enjoy the autumn that we're having here, which is beautiful. Here is the plan of the property, very undulating as you can see, and I have created the zones around the one house that I mentioned that I'm currently living in. I'll just get a pointer. So here we have the boundary for the 80 acres. It goes all the way around to the border, and then up this river. This is an existing creek, it's called Reedy Creek, down to the property boundary, down here as well. So there is an existing lake and this creek runs south down into the lake, and then it goes under the road and continues on into a creek. It flows quite heavily when there's a heavy downpour, and it meets a river here. This river does a bend, and it actually is a Sydney water catchment river. We do have beautiful trout in our riverways and some platypus, very hard to see. The dots on the map are the houses. So there's one here under renovation. This is the one that we're living in, and there's two other houses. One of them's a holiday and one of them we just leave for friends and guests. As you can see, all the contours on the land, so there's scope for many different angles. The north is up here, and the sun angle is over in the west on this side, and it goes across. We have quite a wild property that's full of a lot of gum trees that do produce a lot of shade on the houses. So sadly, some of those will have to go. Not only do they provide shade, but if they were to fall, they could fall on the houses, and they constantly do drop limbs. So the limbs are okay, it's just if they were to fall. Zone 1 is in pink, Zone 2 is in orange as a mushroom shape, and Zone 3 is the yellow. Zone 4 is the blue up here, and Zone 5 is up here as well as down here. We actually have bushland down here which is under a row of pine trees, and they've been around for quite a while. So that's just left. It does produce some beautiful mushrooms that we pick and we cook, which are delicious. So Zone 1, my plan, we actually have an existing house. It is a log house, and the log house is made from local woods with logs on the outside and sheets of pine. What would I change? It's warm with a combustion stove, however the rooms off the log house are quite cool, so it could have some heating either ducted through pipes with a fan, a 12-volt fan because we're off the grid, or underground floor insulation because it is a raised house, and in the cold I wouldn't recommend that. I think it would be better on the ground, in the ground, in these climate conditions. Being north, we have our veggie gardens out here, and this cold climate does produce some beautiful vegetables. The brassicas do very well. Also, we have fruits like rhubarb. We have, what else do we have? Brussels sprouts, broccoli, all the brassicas as I mentioned. So there's quite a few vegetables in this climate that do well. Over here I've got the vegetables on the north. It does rise up here undulating, so the bottom of these vegetables, this bottom row here would need to be sustained to hold that in place so no erosion occurs. We have a water tank that comes off the roof. That water's only for gardening. It isn't clean. The gutters need replacing, so that is just a watering for the garden. More gardens over here, and we have a greenhouse that gets the north sun, compost and wind protection because we get the cold winds in summer. It is sloping down here slightly, but some wind protection does help. Deciduous trees over here that lose their leaves and they get a little bit of the easterly sun, but the north is here. Rockery, we have many lizards and we have many eagles too, so the rockery would be good for them, as well as a fish pond to attract the right insects. Over here on Zone 2, here's our beautiful autumn leaf. The colours are amazing. Beautiful red. Over here in Zone 2 we have the chooks, free range, a chook house, and we have an underwater water tank. We pump our water from a spring and up to the tank, and from the tank it's gravity fed to 4 houses. So that works extremely well. I would put in a pond here for the animals, the cows. There's some existing gum trees as well, and we could have the land slopes down. We could put some garden beds in here, some fruit trees, some nut trees. Nuts do very well, walnuts, hazelnuts,